Nestled in the frigid waters of the Arctic Ocean, the Novaya Zemlya archipelago stands as one of the most bombarded regions on Earth. A remote and desolate outpost off Russia's northern coast, this icy expanse hides a dark legacy, a testament to the Soviet Union's once mighty nuclear ambitions. While the islands are largely unknown to the broader public, their history is critical to understanding the evolution of Russia's nuclear strategy and raises a pressing question. Are modern Russian nuclear weapons as formidable as they seem? From the mid-20th century onwards, Novaya Zemlya became synonymous with nuclear devastation. Over 220 nuclear tests were conducted on the archipelago, unleashing a cumulative energy equivalent to 265 megatons of TNT. This figure dwarfs the total explosive yield used during World War II, which amounted to only 2 to 5 megatons, including the detonation of atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The scale of testing on Novaya Zemlya was not only staggering, but also left an enduring environmental scar, with residual radiation now locked in glaciers that are melting into the Arctic Ocean due to climate change. The centerpiece of this testing legacy is the Tsar Bomba, the largest human-made explosion in history. Detonated on October 30, 1961, this 50-megaton hydrogen bomb produced an awe-inspiring mushroom cloud that soared 40 miles into the sky, 7 times the height of Mount Everest. The top of the cloud measured 59 miles wide, while its base stretched 25 miles across, creating a spectacle that remains unparalleled. The sheer power of the Tsar Bomba is difficult to comprehend. Its flash was so intense that it was visible 1,000 kilometers away, and it generated heat capable of causing third-degree burns within a 100-kilometer radius. The bomb's shockwave flattened wooden houses 160 kilometers from the detonation site, shattered windows 1,000 kilometers away, and registered seismic activity equivalent to a magnitude 5 earthquake, a shockwave that circled the globe 3 times. This single bomb was 1,570 times more powerful than the combined yield of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and 10 times more powerful than all the conventional explosives used during World War II. Had it been detonated over a major city like New York or San Francisco, the result would have been unthinkable devastation, with entire metropolitan areas reduced to ashes and nearly all life extinguished. For the Soviet Union, the Tsar Bomba represented the pinnacle of nuclear propaganda. It showcased the USSR's technological prowess and struck fear into the hearts of its adversaries, contributing to the heightened tensions of the Cold War. The bomb's detonation, occurring just 1 year before the Cuban Missile Crisis, epitomized the era's apocalyptic anxieties and helped solidify the nuclear arms race as a central theme of modern geopolitics. Despite its unparalleled power, the Tsar Bomba was never a viable weapon in practical terms. Its immense size and weight made it unwieldy and impossible to mount on a ballistic missile. The bomb had to be delivered by a massive airplane, leaving it vulnerable to interception and destruction before it could reach its target. This limitation rendered the Tsar Bomba more of a psychological tool than an operational weapon, serving to project strength rather than providing any real strategic advantage. Ironically, the Tsar Bomba posed a greater threat to the Soviet Union itself than to any foreign adversary. The risks of an accident, mishandling, or sabotage were significant, and the bomb's existence underscored the dangerous brinkmanship of the nuclear age. As a symbol of Soviet might, it was effective. As a practical instrument of war, it was fundamentally flawed. The Tsar Bomba and the broader testing program at Novaya Zemlya reflect a recurring theme in Soviet and Russian nuclear policy, a reliance on spectacle and fear to achieve geopolitical objectives. Modern Russia continues to lean heavily on this legacy, invoking its Cold War-era arsenal as a means of intimidating adversaries. However, the cracks in this strategy are becoming increasingly apparent. Many of Russia's modern nuclear capabilities are rooted in technologies and doctrines developed during the Soviet period. While these weapons remain formidable on paper, questions persist about their reliability and relevance in contemporary warfare. Maintenance issues, the obsolescence of delivery systems, and the evolving nature of global conflicts all undermine the practical utility of Russia's nuclear arsenal. The symbolic power of these weapons may still command attention, but their actual strategic value is less certain. The story of Novaya Zemlya serves as a stark reminder of the devastating potential of nuclear weapons and the limitations of relying on them as tools of power. While the Soviet Union used the archipelago to demonstrate its might, the long-term consequences, environmental degradation, geopolitical instability, and the proliferation of nuclear fear, highlight the risks of such strategies. In the context of the Ukraine war and Russia's renewed nuclear threats, the lessons of Novaya Zemlya are particularly relevant. The fear generated by weapons like the Tsar Bomba can shape public perception in international relations, but it cannot win wars or ensure security. As the global community grapples with the challenges of nuclear proliferation and climate change, the legacy of Novaya Zemlya offers both a cautionary tale and a call to reevaluate the role of nuclear weapons in the 21st century. Novaya Zemlya stands as a chilling monument to the nuclear age, a place where the boundaries of human ingenuity and destructiveness were pushed to their limits. The Tsar Bomba, while a symbol of Soviet power, ultimately reveals the paradox of nuclear weapons. Their capacity to inspire fear far exceeds their practical utility. For modern Russia, as it navigates the complexities of global politics and military strategy, the challenge lies in moving beyond this legacy of spectacle and intimidation toward a more sustainable and realistic approach to security. The story of Novaya Zemlya and the Tsar Bomba is not just a tale of the past, but a mirror reflecting the enduring tensions of our time. It serves as a reminder of the thin line between power and folly in the nuclear age, and the urgent need for restraint and foresight in shaping the future of international relations. The specter of nuclear warfare has long been a cornerstone of Russian geopolitical strategy, often invoked to instill fear and deter opposition. Vladimir Putin's frequent nuclear threats, coupled with Russia's efforts to revive Cold War-era symbols like the Tsar Bomba, have kept global anxieties simmering. However, closer scrutiny reveals a stark disconnect between the perception of Russia's nuclear capabilities, rooted in Soviet-era propaganda, and the realities of its modern arsenal. This analysis delves into the roots of Russia's nuclear narrative, examining the psychological warfare underpinning Putin's rhetoric, the historical evolution of its arsenal, and the gaps in its current preparedness. Since the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Putin has leaned heavily on nuclear threats to influence international responses and intimidate opponents. From warning NATO against direct intervention to threatening catastrophic retaliation for perceived transgressions, these threats have become a recurring feature of Russian statecraft. Russian propaganda outlets amplify this rhetoric, frequently airing simulations of nuclear strikes, with Poland being a frequent target of such hypothetical scenarios. However, these incessant threats have diminished in impact over time. Analysts from the International Institute for Strategic Studies, IISS, argue that Russia's prolific use of nuclear blusters suggests a lack of genuine intent to deploy these weapons. Each unfulfilled threat erodes their credibility, transforming Putin's rhetoric from terrifying to farcical, akin to the proverbial boy who cried wolf. Indeed, Putin has issued nuclear threats on at least 40 occasions, yet no action has followed. This pattern raises critical questions. If nuclear weapons are truly a viable option for Russia, why resort to threats rather than action? The answer lies in the symbolic nature of these threats, rooted more in psychological manipulation than practical military strategy. The revival of the Tsar Bomba narrative offers a revealing glimpse into Russia's reliance on fear-based propaganda. Footage of the bomb's historic detonation was re-released as Russia prepared to invade Ukraine, a clear attempt to evoke memories of Soviet-era nuclear dominance. While the Tsar Bomba remains the most powerful human-made explosion in history, its practical utility as a weapon was almost non-existent. The bomb's massive size and weight made it unsuitable for deployment via ballistic missile, requiring it to be carried by a slow-moving aircraft vulnerable to interception. Ironically, this rendered the weapon more of a liability for the Soviet Union than a threat to its adversaries, as accidents or sabotage posed significant risks. Despite its impracticality, the Tsar Bomba remains a potent symbol of Russian power, serving as a reminder of the psychological underpinnings of nuclear deterrence. To understand Russia's current nuclear posture, it is essential to examine the tumultuous years following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. The disintegration of the Soviet Empire resulted in an immediate and dramatic reduction in Russia's nuclear capacity. Large portions of the arsenal ended up outside Russian control, scattered across newly independent states such as Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. This period of uncertainty prompted significant international concern over the security of these weapons. Adding to the challenges was a brain drain of Soviet scientists and engineers. Many of the most skilled experts in nuclear technology emigrated during this period, seeking opportunities in more stable environments. The resulting loss of expertise left Russia struggling to maintain and modernize its arsenal. Incidents like Project Sapphire, in which the United States and Kazakhstan worked to recover enriched uranium being sold in open markets, underscore the chaotic state of nuclear security at the time. To prevent nuclear chaos, the United States and its allies played a critical role in stabilizing the post-Soviet nuclear landscape. Programs such as the Cooperative Threat Reduction (CTR) initiative, also known as the Nunn-Lugar program, provided funding and expertise to secure and dismantle Soviet-era nuclear weapons. One of the most notable outcomes was convincing Ukraine to relinquish its nuclear arsenal, the world's third largest at the time, in exchange for security guarantees enshrined in the 1994 Budapest Memorandum. This agreement highlights a crucial irony in Russia's current narrative. Moscow has justified its invasion of Ukraine in part by claiming to prevent the West from placing nuclear weapons on Ukrainian soil. In reality, it was Western efforts that removed nuclear arms from Ukraine in the first place, reducing proliferation risks in the post-Cold War era. While Russia's nuclear arsenal remains formidable on paper, significant questions surround its operational readiness. The last recorded nuclear test conducted by Russia occurred over 30 years ago, during the final days of the Soviet Union. Without regular testing, the reliability of these aging weapons becomes increasingly uncertain. Maintaining a functional nuclear arsenal requires extensive infrastructure, ongoing research, and routine upgrades, all of which are challenging in a country plagued by economic sanctions and corruption. Moreover, much of the public's perception of Russian nuclear strength is still rooted in Cold War-era propaganda. The reality, as many analysts suggest, is far more complex. Decades of neglect, combined with geopolitical isolation, have left Russia struggling to maintain the same level of nuclear preparedness it once commanded. The disparity between perception and reality forms the crux of modern Russia's nuclear strategy. The psychological power of nuclear weapons, rooted in their potential for destruction, remains a powerful tool for shaping global narratives. However, this power diminishes when threats are overused or when underlying vulnerabilities become apparent. For Putin, the challenge lies in balancing this psychological leverage with the practical limitations of his arsenal. The reliance on outdated symbols like the Tsar Bomba, coupled with frequent but empty threats, risks undermining the fear that sustains Russia's nuclear deterrence. If adversaries begin to see these threats as hollow, the strategic value of Russia's arsenal could erode further. Russia's nuclear legacy is a complex blend of power, propaganda, and practical challenges. From the awe-inspiring but impractical Tsar Bomba to the chaotic post-Soviet years of nuclear disarray, this history shapes the country's current posture. While Putin continues to invoke the specter of nuclear devastation, the underlying reality is far less certain. As global dynamics evolve, the effectiveness of Russia's nuclear threats will depend on its ability to address internal challenges and maintain credibility. For now, the gap between perception and reality persists, a reminder of the enduring psychological power of nuclear weapons, even as their practical value comes into question. Russia has long cultivated an image of nuclear dominance, rooted in its Cold War legacy as a superpower with a formidable nuclear arsenal. However, recent analyses and historical patterns suggest a significant gap between the perception of Russia's nuclear strength and the practical realities of its current arsenal. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia's nuclear capability has faced numerous challenges, from reduced maintenance budgets to endemic corruption. These issues raise questions about the true state of its nuclear weapons and the broader implications for global security. When the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, its vast nuclear arsenal was divided among newly independent states, with Russia inheriting the largest share. However, the transition to a post-Soviet Russia came with severe economic and structural challenges. Much of the expertise that had sustained the Soviet Union's nuclear program was lost as scientists and engineers left the country during the post-collapse brain drain. The Soviet Union's tightly controlled military-industrial complex fragmented, leaving Russia struggling to maintain and modernize its inherited arsenal. The West intervened to mitigate the risks of nuclear proliferation during this chaotic period. Programs like the Cooperative Threat Reduction (CTR) initiative, or Nunn-Lugar program, helped secure and dismantle thousands of nuclear warheads. Ironically, while Moscow now frames its invasion of Ukraine as a response to Western nuclear ambitions, it was the United States that persuaded Ukraine to relinquish its nuclear arsenal, once the world's third largest, in exchange for security assurances under the 1994 Budapest Memorandum. This moment encapsulates a turning point in Russia's nuclear narrative, highlighting how it lost significant ground in both capability and credibility. Russia officially claims to possess approximately 5,600 nuclear warheads, slightly more than the United States' 5,000. Yet many analysts question the functionality of this arsenal. Reports suggest that a significant portion of Russia's warheads date back to the Soviet era, with some having exceeded their intended lifespan without the necessary maintenance to ensure reliability. The disparity between Russia's claimed capabilities and the actual state of its arsenal becomes apparent when comparing military budgets. In 2021, the year before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the United States spent approximately $50 billion on maintaining its 5,000 warheads. Russia, by contrast, spent $60 billion on its entire military budget, which includes the Air Force, Navy, Army, research and development, manufacturing, logistics, and other essential components. With such limited resources, it seems implausible that Russia could effectively maintain its claimed 5,600 warheads, let alone modernize them to keep pace with evolving technology. Corruption further exacerbates this issue. A significant portion of Russia's defense budget has reportedly been siphoned off to fund luxury purchases for elites, including yachts, mansions, and designer goods. The true amount allocated to military readiness remains unknown, but the diversion of funds has undoubtedly left critical gaps in Russia's defense infrastructure, including its nuclear program. Russia's struggles with its nuclear arsenal mirror the broader challenges faced by its conventional military forces. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, it initially portrayed itself as a modern military power. However, as the conflict unfolded, cracks in this facade became evident. Modern equipment quickly ran out, forcing Russia to rely on Soviet-era tanks, armored vehicles, and other outdated gear that had been pulled out of storage. This reliance on antiquated equipment was not merely a logistical necessity, it was symptomatic of systemic corruption and neglect. Investigations revealed that much of Russia's military hardware was poorly maintained or outright non-functional. Soldiers were reportedly sent into battle with fake equipment, such as imitation body armor, highlighting the extent to which funds meant for procurement had been embezzled or misallocated. These deficiencies contributed to the prolonged and faltering campaign in Ukraine, which was initially planned as a swift special military operation, but has now dragged on for over 2 years. The parallels between Russia's conventional military challenges and its nuclear arsenal are striking. If basic military supplies like tires and firearms were compromised by corruption, it stands to reason that the far more expensive and complex nuclear program has faced similar neglect. The question is not whether Russia's nuclear weapons exist, but whether they are as numerous, modern, and functional as the Kremlin claims. Maintaining a modern nuclear arsenal is an extraordinarily costly endeavor, requiring constant upkeep, testing, and modernization. Without these measures, even the most advanced warheads can become unreliable over time. Russia's apparent inability to allocate sufficient resources to its nuclear program raises concerns about the operational readiness of its arsenal. A likely scenario is that Russia maintains a small subset of warheads in good condition for propaganda purposes, to showcase in parades, demonstrations, or training exercises. The rest of its stockpile may be in varying states of disrepair, with funds for their maintenance either redirected to other projects or lost to corruption. This strategy aligns with Russia's broader approach to military power, projecting strength through appearances while neglecting the infrastructure needed to sustain it. Russia's emphasis on nuclear threats is part of a broader strategy of psychological warfare. The Kremlin has repeatedly invoked the specter of nuclear devastation to deter Western intervention in Ukraine and maintain its image as a global superpower. However, the frequent and unfulfilled nature of these threats has begun to undermine their credibility. Since the start of the Ukraine war, Vladimir Putin has issued nuclear threats on at least 40 separate occasions, yet no action has followed. This over-reliance on nuclear rhetoric has diminished its impact, with many experts now viewing these threats as hollow. As the International Institute for Strategic Studies, ISS, notes, the constant invocation of nuclear war suggests that Russia does not consider its arsenal a practical option. If it did, it would likely wield these threats more sparingly to preserve their deterrent value. The revelations about Russia's nuclear arsenal have profound implications for global security. While the risk of nuclear war remains low, the perception of Russia as a nuclear superpower shapes international relations and defense strategies. If this perception is based more on propaganda than reality, it could embolden adversaries and destabilize the delicate balance of deterrence. Moreover, the possibility of accidents or miscalculations cannot be ignored. An underfunded and poorly maintained arsenal poses risks not only to Russia but to the world. The potential for technical failures or unauthorized use underscores the need for robust international oversight and dialogue to prevent catastrophic outcomes. Russia's nuclear arsenal, much like its broader military apparatus, appears to be a fragile facade propped up by propaganda and psychological warfare. The realities of corruption, neglect, and limited resources have eroded its once formidable capabilities, leaving a significant gap between perception and reality. As the world continues to navigate the complexities of the Ukraine conflict and broader geopolitical tensions, understanding the true state of Russia's nuclear program is more critical than ever. For Vladimir Putin, the challenge is clear: maintaining the illusion of strength while grappling with the vulnerabilities exposed by years of systemic mismanagement. For the international community, the task is to discern fact from fiction and ensure that the risks posed by Russia's nuclear arsenal, real or perceived, are managed with vigilance and resolve. Russia's nuclear arsenal has long been shrouded in both fear and mystique, a legacy of its Soviet-era dominance in the nuclear arms race. However, closer examination of modern realities reveals a sobering picture of systemic decay, widespread corruption, and exaggerated capabilities. While nuclear weapons remain a potent tool of psychological warfare, Russia's ability to deploy them effectively and at scale is increasingly in question. This analysis unpacks the challenges facing Russia's nuclear program, exploring the impact of historical overstatements, modern-day mismanagement, and the stark consequences of corruption. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union deliberately overstated its nuclear capabilities to create an illusion of overwhelming strength. Reports from that era suggest that some of the missiles displayed in military parades were not operational weapons but hollow shells, recycled multiple times to give the appearance of an endless arsenal. This strategy, while effective in forcing the United States to overinvest in countermeasures, set a precedent for using deception as a key component of Russian military strategy. The recent Netflix documentary Turning Point explores this theory, providing compelling, if difficult to verify, accounts of Soviet-era exaggeration. While the specifics may remain uncertain, the broader pattern is undeniable. Russia has often relied on perception rather than reality to maintain its image as a nuclear superpower. Maintaining a modern nuclear arsenal is a complex and expensive endeavor. Many components, such as tritium, must be replaced every 5 to 10 years to ensure functionality. For each warhead that relies on tritium, this process costs approximately $100,000 per cycle. a significant expense in a country where military corruption is endemic. Consider this. The average pre-war salary for a Russian lieutenant was under $11,000 per year. For those overseeing the maintenance of nuclear weapons, the temptation to siphon funds allocated for critical upkeep into personal gain is immense. This phenomenon has been observed across various sectors of the Russian military. Soldiers in Ukraine, for instance, were equipped with counterfeit gear due to embezzled procurement funds, a glaring example of corruption's corrosive impact on operational readiness. Russia's last nuclear test occurred over 30 years ago, prior to the collapse of the Soviet Union. Since then, international nuclear test ban treaties have prevented large-scale testing, leaving the functionality of Russia's arsenal increasingly uncertain. Without regular tests, it is impossible to verify whether warheads, many of which are decades old, remain operational. This issue extends beyond individual warheads to the broader infrastructure of Russia's nuclear program. Corruption and mismanagement have left critical maintenance tasks neglected, raising the possibility that a significant portion of Russia's arsenal is non-functional. In the absence of testing, even the Russian government may lack a clear understanding of its arsenal's true state. A chilling parallel to the unpreparedness seen in its conventional forces during the invasion of Ukraine. One common argument is that even if only 10% of Russia's claimed 5,600 warheads are functional, this would still represent a devastating threat. After all, a single nuclear detonation in a major city like New York, London, or Tokyo could result in tens of millions of deaths and untold destruction. While this is technically true, it oversimplifies the strategic realities of nuclear warfare. During the Cold War, the concept of mutually assured destruction, the MAD, drove the superpowers to stockpile tens of thousands of warheads. This strategy required overwhelming redundancy to ensure that even in the event of a first strike, both sides could retaliate with catastrophic force. At its peak, the United States maintained over 31,000 warheads, while the Soviet Union claimed to possess nearly 45,000. The goal was not to launch a single nuke, but to fire an overwhelming salvo capable of neutralizing the enemy's entire nuclear capability before they could respond. In this context, firing a small number of nukes is strategically nonsensical. A limited strike would almost certainly trigger massive retaliation, ensuring the aggressor's total destruction without achieving any meaningful advantage. This principle holds true today. For Russia, launching a limited nuclear attack would guarantee devastating retaliation from the United States and NATO, reducing the logic of such a move to self-destruction. The challenges facing Russia's nuclear program extend beyond maintenance and functionality. The credibility of its arsenal and its leaders is critical to sustaining its deterrent value. Vladimir Putin's frequent nuclear threats, issued more than 40 times since the invasion of Ukraine, have increasingly undermined this credibility. As these threats go unfulfilled, they risk being perceived as hollow, diminishing their psychological impact. The parallels with Russia's conventional military failures are striking. Just as its ground forces struggled with outdated equipment and logistical breakdowns, its nuclear arsenal faces similar vulnerabilities. If corruption and neglect have rendered parts of the arsenal non-functional, Russia's ability to project power through nuclear threats becomes increasingly compromised. Corruption is the Achilles heel of Russia's military-industrial complex. From the siphoning of funds to the falsification of maintenance records, the systemic rot within Russia's defense establishment undermines its ability to sustain a reliable nuclear deterrent. This corruption is not limited to isolated incidents, but reflects a broader culture of graft that prioritizes short-term gain over long-term readiness. For a country that relies so heavily on its nuclear arsenal for geopolitical leverage, this is a dangerous predicament. Without confidence in the functionality of its weapons, Russia may hesitate to use them even in the most extreme scenarios. Conversely, the uncertainty surrounding its arsenal raises the risk of miscalculation, with potentially catastrophic consequences. The state of Russia's nuclear arsenal has profound implications for global security. On the one hand, the diminished functionality of its stockpile reduces the likelihood of intentional nuclear escalation. On the other, The opacity surrounding its capabilities increases the risk of misjudgment by both Russia and its adversaries. This precarious balance underscores the importance of transparency and arms control agreements to mitigate the risks of nuclear conflict. Moreover, the erosion of Russia's deterrent value could embolden adversaries, further destabilizing an already volatile geopolitical landscape. For NATO and the United States, understanding the true state of Russia's nuclear program is critical to formulating effective deterrence strategies. Russia's nuclear arsenal, long a symbol of its superpower status, is increasingly revealed to be a fragile facade. Decades of corruption, neglect, and overstatement have left its capabilities in question, challenging its ability to maintain the psychological and strategic leverage it once wielded. As the world grapples with the uncertainties of a multipolar nuclear era, Russia's challenges serve as a cautionary tale of the dangers posed by corruption and complacency in managing weapons of mass destruction. While the specter of nuclear war remains a sobering reality, the cracks in Russia's nuclear program highlight the need for vigilance, transparency, and sustained international cooperation. For Moscow, the challenge is clear: restore credibility or risk losing its place at the table of global power. For the rest of the world, the lesson is equally stark. Even the mightiest arsenals can be undone by the human flaws of greed and hubris.